It's the end of the month, but Halloween is tomorrow, and hopefully I'll get this video out by today, but if not, well, you'll see it soon enough. Anyway, so if you like suspense, if you like a good story, has good directing, I feel like the sun's in my face, so we're gonna do this for a bit. If you like horror, if you like suspense, if you like films from the past and miss the way films used to look with Technicolor, I recommend you watch Pearl. Pearl was released 2 years ago, but it was one I just saw recently. It's really good for several reasons. First of all, I think Mia Goth does a wonderful job, and I think there's a reason why a trilogy was made. A lot of people say that you should watch X, which is the first movie that was released, and then Pearl, which is the prequel, and then watch Maxine, which is technically the sequel. And I disagree. It's better because the films are more cohesive this way. I think the film is a better film to begin with. It allows you better understanding for the old lady that's in X, and it also is a better film to start with. There were a lot of things about this film that I liked. I liked how each scene was beautifully crafted. The cinematography of the film was great. And the way that each scene was built was fantastic, especially if you admire films of the past and the way they composed their shots. I think we have come to take for granted the compositions that we have become used to for film. We're used to 16:9 now, but for a long time it was phenomenal, groundbreaking, etc. And so when you consider all of the things that are being shot, you also consider why the placement of everything in the frame is so important to the story. There were some aspects of the film that you would not expect, particularly a 7 or 8 minute long performance piece by Mia Goth where she expresses, or rather explains, why she did what she did.
I was curious about other men. I'm sure you don't want to hear about a stranger satisfying your life, and I swear it was only once.
But it's also the very reason why the character at the end who's listening to her is in danger. I do think that the way that this story begins is fascinating. It's clear from the very beginning that the protagonist will do anything that she desires to reach her goals, only that everything that she's willing to do has such big consequences that she cannot run away from. It's also clear that the main character is mentally ill, and therefore it is also a story of the inevitability of one's crash, I believe. And an extreme situation where that becomes the character's undoing. It's just very well told cinematically. There are certain editing styles that I found to be interesting because the film took place in 1918. And then also there are some editing aspects that remind me of the 70s. So you have like 1940s storytelling with film in combination with 1970s editing with some of the shots. This could be foreshadowing. It could be a form of foreshadowing that the director could have employed, or it could have been something that the director put to use because the next film does take place in the 70s. But I'll talk about that film when I do that review. Without making it too long, I would say that there are some interesting parallels between a couple years ago and the time that the film took place, 1918, due to the Spanish flu. It's a pandemic naturally, so there were people with masks. And although not a main aspect of the story, it did influence the characters and what they did and how they felt. One could say that this story is the result of bad parenting. I would say that it's bad parenting plus a mental breakdown in a time where people really did not have the resources to not feel alone.
You're wrong.
Am I? Then what a fine woman you hope to become. Leaving your mother alone to rot so you could dance with a bunch of city whores.
So in short, if you love suspense, if you love horror, and if you love old films, good performances, watch Pearl.
A nice, comfortable place that you could return to whenever you want.